Hello viewers, and a warm welcome to another episode. Today is a very special episode for me, because today is the day that I finally get to reveal my Steampunk Commodore Amiga A500. This is something I've been building now for just over a year, and I've had an awful lot of fun building it. And for those of you not quite sure what steampunk is, imagine an alternative universe, Victorian times, with gadgets today existing back then. What would they have been made of? Well, materials back then that they used to use to build things were things like wood, brass, glass and precious stones. Well, I think that's enough talk. It's time to finally reveal to the world what it looks like. I'm quite nervous about this actually. It's, as I say, it's taken just over a year to build, and I didn't want it to end up looking like a Homer Simpson bird box. So, let's have a look. And there it is. Switch it on. This has been an absolute labour of love for me to build, and I've thoroughly enjoyed building it. The idea first came to me a few years ago now, when my interest in the retro computer scene flared up again. I spent a long time trying to think about how I could accomplish this build. It's such an iconic device, I wanted to be able to do it justice. It wasn't just a case of throwing a few things together. I put a lot of thought into it. I did quite a few drawings first, which helped me visualise what I was trying to accomplish in the long run. And I think I've done quite a good job on it in the end. One of the other things that was on my mind while I was building this was being able to reverse engineer the computer and put it back into its original form. I know there are a lot of fans out there who would get quite upset if they thought I'd butchered an original Commodore Amiga, which is not something I like doing. I have a hard time just drilling the hole in the back to put the DFO switch on. So I do still have the original case and the keyboard. The keyboard cable that I use for this, for the power lights there, was actually bought separately off of eBay on its own. So it wasn't me that actually chopped that one up. It had already come separated from the keyboard. So I have all the original parts, so if need be, I could actually just, like I say, take it all apart and put it back in its original form. I've always been a big fan of the Commodore series of computers, especially the Commodore PET. I love the design of it and the steampunk aesthetic, and I wanted to try and create a machine incorporating that design, along with the Amiga A500. As you can see by the shape of the screen surround there, that's my little homage to the Commodore PET, so recognisable in the computer world. I even tried to get a closest colour match I could to the original screen colour from the first PET. Some of the other features I've incorporated are the grills from the Amiga 500, just around the centrepiece there, along with the fins, and also the sloping keyboard. And of course I wanted to build it with materials that were available back then, such as the wood that I mentioned before, brass, there's copper on there as well, some glass, and I've also included the granite plinth here. The best part about this build for me was designing it in the first place, before I even started constructing anything. As I said before, I love the steampunk aesthetic, and I also wanted to make it look like it had been built in the past. I had quite a few ideas in my mind. When you start putting them onto paper, you start obviously getting a visualisation of what it may look like. But as anybody knows that builds these kind of things, what you start off drawing ends up entirely different, because you come across little problems along the way. I had a lot of fun looking at different designs and trying to incorporate a lot of working features into this. It was always my intention to have a sound system built in. That was one of the main things I wanted. I wanted the whole machine to be like a Commodore PET, with the keyboard built in, but obviously have the speakers as well, so I didn't want anything separate from the actual main unit. And of course, in trying to do all of this, I wanted to just work with materials that were available back in the time period as well. I tried to steer away from plastic as much as I can. Unfortunately, I couldn't avoid it with the keyboard, but everything else on here is wood, brass, and obviously along with the granite plinth there. There's some copper as well, and obviously there's some glass and ceramics there on the front. One of the biggest challenges for me was working with the granite plinth. I was determined to use this material. It's something I'd had lying around left over from a kitchen build that I'd done. I did quite a lot of research into Victorian electronics or electrical items from the 1880s, and a lot of their equipment was scientific looking, wooden boxes with a hard, shiny, non-conductive surface. So I thought the CRT screen there would look quite good mounted on it. The hardest part was drilling out the holes in the granite. I got through quite a few drill bits, if I remember rightly, and I thought to myself, I'll do this part first because this is going to be the hardest and the most time consuming. Because of the nature of granite, it can break quite easily if you apply too much pressure, so it's quite a slow process drilling out the holes, and of course getting them all lined up as well. So I'm pleased to say that I didn't get any breakages on the granite there. Unfortunately though, I did have a mishap along the way with the electronics side of things. While I was working on it, obviously when you're building something like this, you're constantly taking it apart and putting it back together again to see if things will work. And on the back of the glass tube there, the vacuum tube, there's a little nipple where the last bit of air is sucked out and then it's heated up. I just tapped it on the edge of the plinth there and it broke, and I heard a rush of air go back into the tube. I'm lucky actually it didn't implode and explode on me. But obviously that rendered it completely useless after that happened. I didn't have another one, so I had to get another one off of eBay, which eventually came. And then of course that tube is calibrated to work with the motherboard that it came with. So I had to change the motherboard as well, so I had to completely take it all apart and start again, which was rather annoying. Unfortunately that was a bit of a setback, but these things happen, don't they? You just have to persevere. One of the other challenges I had with this, just quickly, was getting media into it, games and software. It did have a floppy drive, but unfortunately that wasn't working, so I've opted for the Gotek drive, which I've mounted to the side here. I'll do some close-ups of this as we talk about it. The next thing I thought was, for anybody that's got a Gotek drive, you'll know how frustrating it is when you try and put a load of games onto a USB flash drive, even with the OLED display there on the side, which is quite small. And my eyesight's not very good. You're scrolling through them all. So I thought to myself, how could I get around doing that? And then I thought to myself, how about just putting one game on one flash card? So I had this box I got in a charity shop some years ago, and I made a little box for some little flash drives. They're all numbered. In the top there, I'll do a close-up of this in a second, I've got a little list of what's actually on the flash drives. Next thing I thought that would be fun would be to try and find the smallest flash drives possible, because as you know, the files on a floppy disk for a Commodore Amiga are just 880 kilobytes for an ADF file. I managed to find some 1 megabyte USB flash drives, would you believe it, in China. They took quite a long time to come. Unfortunately, when they did come, they worked fine with Windows. I could put the file on there, even after being formatted. I think there was 920k left out of a megabyte. But unfortunately the Gotek drive, both my Gotek drives don't recognise the 1 megabyte flash drives. So I then ordered some, the next size up, which was 64 megabyte, and I'm pleased to say they do work. So I've got quite a few games on here, but I've got Workbench here, so I'll just plug that in. That should load up itself. Let's wait for that to load. One of the other questions I had about my Steampunk Sega Master System build was, can I output the picture to a colour screen? Unfortunately I didn't think about that when I was building that. That's just black and white only. But obviously with this, I've got all the video outputs on the back, so I can plug it into a colour monitor. So I've got this here, just swap these cables over. There we go. There it is in glorious colour. And I must say, it does make quite a difference. I've been working on this for months, testing it out in black and white, and seeing things in colour again was quite amazing. It was almost a bit like that film Pleasantville when the whole town goes back to colour. Okay, that's enough talk about it all. It's time to take a closer look. Okay, let's take a look at some of its functions and features. I'll switch it on first. That button there is actually a reset switch as well. Obviously that's the voltmeter there, and that's the volume control there, and the built-in amplifier. I can turn that off if need be. so then I can take the audio straight out the back into either another amplifier or straight into a television. There's the screen. The screen and the amplifier are powered separately from the Amiga 500 itself. That's running off its own power supply. There's the badge. Made that out of brass, etched it. That was a lot of fun, that was actually. And I've got a power indicator there, disc activity. As I said before, those lights there were already bought separately, separated from a keyboard that I got off of eBay. I still have the original keyboard completely assembled, ready to go back together if ever need be. Now, I used a PC keyboard for this. It took me a long time to find one actually, and that was one of the things that slowed the build down. Finding something that's suitable and looked the part. I used one of those USB adapters on the Amiga 500 motherboard to allow me to plug in a USB keyboard. I'll add links in the description to which one I used, because I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was now, because only one of them worked for me. I ended up buying two and only one worked. Little plaque there and my science fiction fantasy name on there, and Science Industries for my steampunking. The keyboard lights work as well. Very faint, but it works, it's subtle. There are the speakers under there. Some old Sony TV speakers they are. It took quite a while to find actually, finding something suitable. And the sound obviously resonates with those horns there I've added. There's the back. That's the little black and white 5-inch CRT screen. I've added a shroud over the top of it just to protect it more than anything. Just so that if anything ever does drop onto the back of the tube, it doesn't damage it. It's also a bit more protection for anybody as well. All the high voltage parts are all covered up, so there's no danger of anybody getting an electric shock. And there's the Gotek drive on the side there. That was a lot of fun adding that. As I say, I will be making a external disk drive as well. Very 3.5-inch floppy. Here's a quick look at the back of the machine. You can just make out the motherboard in there. I had to make an extension cable for the RF modulator to allow me to get a composite video signal out. And I've labelled up all the inputs on a brass plaque. And just there you've got your 12 volt DC input for the amplifier and television circuits. And there's a DFO switch there, so I can switch between the internal Gotek drive and an external disk drive. Of course, there's the mouse. I did do a separate video on that if anybody's interested, of completely assembling it. It was a fun build actually, that was. Again, that's a PC mouse with a little USB adapter there. I need to make a little case actually for that PCB to protect it. Well, I think that just about wraps up this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you love it or do you hate it? Either way, let me know in the comments. I know some people out there will be like, well, why? And some people will actually love it. I love it, and that's probably all that matters really. I enjoy using it. It's aesthetically pleasing to me, and it fits in nice with my decor on this part of the house. And of course it's a one-off, it's unique. There's not another one in the world like it. I am planning on building an external disk drive for this one day, when I get round to it. I've forgotten the name of the computer, the Babbage computer, in the style of that. It won't be as big obviously, because that was the size of a room. That will just be a little accessory to go on the side, just to finish it off. Well, I'll leave you with some gameplay in a moment. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you.